The Trailmaster Hurricane 200 is one of the most popular mini bikes in the world, and it's easy to see why. It comes stock with front and rear suspension and hydraulic disc brakes, a CVT for a smoother ride, big 19-inch off-road tires, a wide, comfortable seat for the largest cabooses, a headlight for riding late, but sometimes you need a little extra to ride like a pro. The Hurricane 200 Pro has all the features you already love with a couple of bright new additions. With an LED headlight and rear brake light, an electric start button, and an integrated battery. This bike is a pro out of the box. Let us show you how to put this sleek machine together.
For this mini bike build, you'll need the following tools.
What's up everyone, this is Jason over at Go Power Sports, and today we're going to build your brand new Trailmaster Hurricane 200 Pro. Let's start by taking off this box. Now that we have the box off, let's go around this frame. We're going to use a 13 mil socket and a 13 mil wrench just to take this cage off. So we'll need to undo the nuts and bolts on the back rack. We're going to use a 10 mil socket and a 10 mil wrench for these smaller nuts and bolts. Nice. Now this top cage is loose. Let's take her off. Set the cage to the side. All right, you're not out of the woods just yet. You still want to take the mini bike off of the bottom frame, but it's going to be connected through this front axle. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to use a crescent wrench on one side and a 17 mil socket on the other side. Don't throw away your axle. Make sure you keep it nice and safe because you are going to reuse it. All right, this should be the fun part. Voila magic. All right, so it's nice to have another set of hands, but essentially we got the bike frame out of the crate. We have it on a stand because we are going to put the front tire and wheel on. So let's go ahead and discard this bottom frame, get it out of the way. This is now trash. Or turn it into a table, whatever you want. Also underneath your mini bike, you're going to get a goodie bag. In this goodie bag, you're going to get your front fender. You're also going to get a spark plug remover. You're going to get an owner's manual. You're going to get your battery cover, battery box cover. You're going to get a battery, and you're going to get your front tire. All right, now that we have the tire, the battery, the fender, and all the accessories out, I'm going to start by putting the handlebars on top of the forks, just so that they're not dangling and that they are out of the way. Now that's annoying. So in this battery box cover bag, your risers, your top of your risers are going to be in here as well. They look like little U's, little half moons. And that's what's going to clamp onto the top of our handlebars. So let's pull out all of that. There's also a baggie labeled front brake. That's going to be for your hydraulic front brake. So let's set those aside. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. Yes, queen. You got to get this guy. No, I just lost my train of thoughts. All right, so now we're moving up to the handlebars. The great thing about the Hurricane 200 Pro, or the main selling points about the Hurricane 200 Pro, is that it comes with an electric key start. So in order to attach the electric key start, we're going to attach it to the top of the handlebar risers. So there's a little bit of a process, but we're going to go riser bolt through the key plate, then through the top riser, which will go over the handlebars. So the handlebars have a groove in them, so you know how to line them up. So now we'll just finger tight these down, get everything in place, and we'll go through and just start torquing them down. All right, so on the other side, we've got a riser bolt going through the key plate, going through the top riser, which hugs the handlebar at its grooves. And then we're going to tighten it down through the bottom riser.
Do you have an OnlyHands account?
I'm about to. All right, now I have everything hand tightened. I'm going to grab my impact with a 10 mil, and I'm just gently going to go in like a star pattern to tighten down these risers. So here, there, there. We'll just keep going around until everything's nice and snug. Now you don't want to over tighten these because this is a soft metal. At some point you will end up stripping them, but you want them to be nice and snug because you don't want your handlebars just collapsing on you, especially if you hit a jump. But that's nice and snug. We got our electric key holder in place. We're good to move on. There are a few things attached to your bike. They're usually done by zip ties. One, this is an MSO. If you need a legit MSO because you want to be street riding this mini bike at some point, you can buy a notarized MSO at time of purchase. If you didn't, contact us. It's like 30 bucks? Yeah, 30 bucks to get it notarized. But we'll go ahead and set that aside. There's some EPA regulation tags on here. We can cut that and get that out of the way. Bada bing, bada boom, ba bam. All right, now we're moving to our front hydraulic brake caliper. Remember, you have a baggie labeled front brake. In this baggie, you're going to get 2 bolts, 2 lock washers, and a flat washer. So grab 1 bolt, put a lock washer on first, put your flat washer on next. We'll do the same with the second just so it's ready to roll. These bolts are going to go through the outside of your fork and then screw right into your caliper. We'll hand tighten them up first to make sure everything fits. And they fit like a champ. Key notes if you want to get close in on this. In between your brake calipers, there's going to be a spacer. At some point you want to take it out. I'll take it out whenever we're about to assemble the wheel. It's in there so that the caliper doesn't collapse on you. If it does collapse on you, you got to get some, you'll get like a flathead screwdriver and pry them back open. But for the time being, just leave that spacer in there. just so you're aware that it's there. It'll come out. I like to leave it there just as a precaution until we get the wheel on. All right, let me tighten up that brake caliper with a 10 mil. Nice and snug. All right, all right, all right. Now that we have the brake caliper on, I'm going to go ahead and put the front fender on. Front fender looks like this. There are front fender bolts in this little baggie, which is called front fender. And we'll match up the pattern. There's 2 holes up front, 1 hole in the back, 2 holes up front, 1 hole in the back. So it'll fit just like that. Now your bracket may be a little bent. This is pretty light metal, so this will end up forming to the fender. So if it doesn't look like it's exact, don't worry. It's mini bikes. Mini biking ain't easy. And we're just gonna grab 1 bolt, fit it through the fender bracket, fit it through the fender hole, and then you got 1 nut that goes on the bottom side. Like everything, we'll get a finger tight, get everything on, and then we'll go through and tighten it all up. So bolt through the fender bracket, then through the fender, and nut on the bottom side. Then this is where a little bending needs to happen. As you can tell, this fender is quite bent and this bracket is not quite as bent. So with a little bit of elbow grease, we're gonna form it to where we need it. All right, you're gonna grab a 10 mil socket and a 10 mil wrench and start tightening. All right, front fender is on. Keep working our way on down. The wheel's going to be next. Let's air up this tire first and then we'll put it back on the bike. We can take out the valve coils a little more air inside.
Why is the air so heavy?
Well, the thing is. All right, now we have the tire aired up. We're going to slide the front axle through the outside of the fork, through the tire and wheel, and then outside the other fork. We want to make sure that the brake disc is going to fit inside of the brake caliper. So remember that spacer we had in there? Now's the time to take it out, discard it, bam. I'm going to start by putting the axle through the brake caliper side. Now we try to finagle it to where we can fit the brake caliper and the brake disc inside the brake caliper. Okay, it's in. Fit the axle through. Fit the axle through the other fork. Bam. All right, get a close-up of this. This fork, the bottom of this fork tube can get spun around. We want to make sure that the spacer is facing towards the inside of the bearing, and the flat side of this fork is where the nut's going to press up against. So even though this can get turned around, just make sure your fork tube spacers facing the inside and the flat part is facing outside towards the nut. Now to tighten it, we're going to use our 17 mil socket. Use our crescent wrench and get this nice and snug. You want it nice and snug, but you want that front wheel to still spin. So she's spinning pretty good. She's spinning pretty true inside the brake caliper. I'm going to test that brake caliper with a little squeeze. Okay, cool. We got stopping power. Bam, looking good. All right, now we move to the battery and installing the battery onto the bike. All right, now we're onto the battery section of the mini bike. Let's pull our battery out of the box. Tape to the top is going to be your mounting hardware for the positive and the negatives. Wires, pull everything out. We're going to move this side panel so that we can install the battery. The battery box sits right behind here. Bam, let's grab our 10 mil and undo the side panels. Don't lose these bolts because you will use them right back here in just a sec. Bam. And now we see the battery box. All right, so now we have the battery box exposed. One thing to note, this tab back here, this is where your battery strap is going to slide over. Sometimes the manufacturer can get overzealous. They might sometimes weld it, or this plate might not be, it might be bent up to where you can't slide your strap around there. You may need to bend it by hand or by tool so that you can fit the battery strap on the back side of this tab. So we'll address that here in just a sec. Since this tab is bent a little up, I'm gonna grab my crescent wrench and just bend it down just a little bit, just so that I can fit that battery strap behind it. All right, now we're about to install the battery. Let's take the terminal caps off and we can discard those. We're going to fit these square nuts inside of each of the terminals. And then we're going to turn this battery so that the terminals are towards the inside of the bike. They should fit right inside the battery box, like a glove. We can tell that the positive, which is red, is going to be towards the engine, and the negative in black is going to be towards the back of the bike. So let's pull these caps back a little bit so that they're exposed. You're going to take your bolt, fit it through the top of the terminal, and screw it down into that square nut that we had inside there. All right, so we got the positive terminal on. Let's work our way towards the back. I'm gonna peel this cap back just so I can see what's going on. We got our battery bolt through the top. Ooh, don't shock yourself. Ooh. Those are both on. Let me grab a screwdriver and tighten it. I have like a multi-tool, and I just pulled that out and just tighten it by hand. All right, that's on. Let's put the terminal caps back over for protection. That's on. Let's go to the negative. This goes underneath your battery. It's just a shock absorber. You can easily, if you forget to put it on, you can put it underneath. You can lift your battery and slide it in underneath. No harm, no foul. All right, so now we have our battery cap. These slots are cut out for those wires. So let's put that on. Snug as a bug in a rug. So this is your battery strap. 2 pieces of metal. This straight piece is going to go towards the inside of the bike. This is going to go on the outside of the bike. They're going to join up like this. And you're going to tighten it up with these battery nut and bolt. This battery nut and bolt. These, you know the saying. All right, so let's fit this in the back. This front bent piece is going to go towards the front tab. All right. Connect them with the bolt. I'm going to grab my 10. All right, battery is in and secure. Now that we have the battery in and attached, we're going to put our side panel back on. Kick it. And just hand tighten until we get everything in place. Take our 10 mil socket, let's tighten everything down. All right, now that we have the battery installed, let's give it a quick little test. I'm going to take the back wheel off the ground just in case it decides to run on us. So I'm gonna run this forward. All right, now we ran it forward. All right, you may want to see this. Key switch. See if it works. We got the on switch. We got the electric start. Oh, we don't have gas, but yeah, it essentially works. So now let's put in some gas and see if we can take it for a test ride. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put some gas in the bike just so we can test it out. There's also no oil in this unit. How do I know that? There's a tag here that says no oil in unit. So we need to give it both gas and about 15 to 16 ounces of oil. Then we'll go ahead and try to get this started. Sorry, I'm being curious. Bi-curious. You're onto something. There is a joke there. All right, I've already added gas. I'm gonna drop the bike down so I can get an accurate read on how much oil is going in here. Bam. Get the kickstand down. All right, now we've dropped the bike. We're going to now put oil in this engine. We recommend 2 of these Tillotson oils. We have a break-in oil which is great for putting into your engine right away. Let it go through a few heat cycles, drain it, and then put in the 4-stroke engine oil. This is a Tillotson synthetic oil that we highly recommend. And it doesn't have to be just in Tillotson engines. It can put in your lawnmower, your Predators, and definitely these Hurricane mini bikes as well. So even though it says there's no oil in here, I'm gonna check just to see if that's true. There is oil in here. So even though that tag said that there was no oil in here, there is oil inside this engine. So what we can do is that we can break in this engine with the oil that's in there, but I would immediately drain it out and put in the Tillotson 4-stroke engine oil right away. So let it do a heat cycle with the oil that's already in there, drain it. We'll put in this Tillotson synthetic 4-stroke engine oil, and then we should be good to ride. All right, with any new bike, I like to put it up against something solid just in case the bike starts to run on us. It's not gonna go anywhere. So let's check our kill switch, make sure that it's on, make sure that our key is turned on. We can tell it's on because of the light. We're gonna make sure our fuel is in the forward position. We're also gonna choke it a bit. And let's see if it starts up. We can either pull start it or we can use the electric start button. Let's try that out. Oh, like it was meant to be. She starts. So now what we'll end up doing, we'll let it run for a little bit. We're gonna let that oil kind of break in. Then we're going to drain that oil, put in the Tillotson 4-stroke synthetic oil, and then we will take it out to Rockwood. And you can ride this thing either day or night. There are tons of upgrades for this mini bike. Stay tuned for the next video where I pick out my favorite mods for the Hurricane 200 Pro. Now that you have your bike built, fueled, and tested, you're ready to ride like a pro. Stay fast, stay safe, and ride on.